Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we spotlight wife and caregiver Dr. Ivy Randle from Chicago, Illinois. She served as a caregiver for both her mother and her husband, Kalvin, at the same time, while also trying to work full-time as a Chicago public school administrator. Dr. Ivy shares her journey from overwhelm to prioritizing her own health so that she is more equipped to serve as a caregiver and community member. Her talk is entitled Working Spouse Caregiver. Thank you for joining us for part 2, Dr. Ivy Randle's interview. Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. This radio show, Beyond Stillness, offers an hour of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, Beyond Stillness is a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity. I'm your host, Molly Bucola. Today we welcome guest Dr. Ivy Randle from Chicago, Illinois. She is the wife, business partner, and caregiver for her husband, Kalvin Randle. She loves empowering children and adults through education. She worked in the Chicago public schools for 27 years, founded a summer camp called KIDS Kids Project, founded an educational not-for-profit called Skyscraper Mentorship Incorporated, and leads her own wellness group. Her talk is entitled Working Spouse Caregiver. Before we begin today, we take a moment of pause, calling to mind the caregivers in our lives. All types of caregivers. Maybe our moms, dads, teachers, neighbors, aunts or uncles, people who have been there to support us in our uniqueness while inspiring us to be and become ourselves. Today, we give thanks for those people who have been with us throughout our time. I wish you listeners could see Ivy as she was delivering her story because her hands were flailing and you could tell her personality was ignited. So thank you, Ivy, for sharing your whole personality with us throughout the story too.
You are welcome, Molly. Thank you.
At the beginning of your story, you wrote, "It has been a long road to recovery for him," your husband, Kalvin, "and I am very proud of his efforts. And our relationship has grown immensely throughout." Please describe how your relationship has grown throughout the recovery process.
Wow. It has grown tremendously. When he had those 2 strokes, not only did his life change forever, mine did also. So it seems as though what was happening prior to that, what mattered prior to that, no longer mattered. We had something present, serious that we were facing, and we had to face it together. And so that's what we did. So everything else just was pushed to the background, and we had this situation that was in front of us, and we had to move fast and think fast. And so we did do that. We did that, and we navigated through those, especially those initial moments. Oh my gosh! When something like that happens, you get to know who's who and what's what. And so he got to saw who I was as a wife, and I got to see who he was as a husband. And I'm happy to say that I like what I saw. He immediately went into a mode where he was determined to get better. And I went into a mode that initially perhaps felt uncomfortable for him, but ultimately I was looking at the big picture, because I know that there are a lot of things that are, especially between a husband and wife team, there are a lot of expectations that people put on you that are not necessarily good for you and your spouse. And so the bottom line is that we had a business. I was still working full-time in my career. We had ministry. We just had a plethora of responsibilities. And so I had to think fast, because literally I had to figure things out within 24-hour period. So we was moving and shaking, and we had to, I had to make some decisions, to have some tough conversations, and we got through them successfully. And then our relationship began to just take off and blossom in a new way, in a better way, from those points to today, actually.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like that moment of the stroke was a shift. You said you had to let go of what was before and start something new, which is absolutely beautiful. And I'm wondering, you said that Kalvin is motivated to recover. He's motivated throughout his recovery. He's also human. So my guess is there are some times that he feels like he's plateaued or isn't as motivated. And often what I hear from caregivers is that moment is a struggle, because only the stroke survivor can fully choose to motivate themselves through recovery. How does your relationship work in those moments?
That was I think I've had to have 3 courageous conversations. The first courageous conversation I had to have with my husband probably was like a day or 2 after the strokes. And what I had to share with him, because it was our reality, not just mine, I had to share with him that I need you to be able to go to the bathroom and clean yourself up somewhat in order for you to come home. Now, I'm sharing this with him being paralyzed on the right side of his body, because my reality was that there was no way that I could take care of my husband 24/7 if he was not able to do those 2 things. And so what I know that initially he didn't say anything to me negative, but I know that it pierced his heart, but that was our reality. And so from that moment on, I remember very vividly, from that moment on, my husband fought like the Dickens. And what I saw way back then, 6 years ago, I still see to this day. And I credit him being a fighter, and I credit him with all the work that he's put in for himself. Even though he's gotten down, and I'm sure he's gotten down and disappointed, and he shares ever so often that he wouldn't put what he's going through on anybody. He overcame all of that, and he's fought through, and it has caused him to be as independent as he is. And when I say he was paralyzed on the right side of his body, at that point in his after the trauma, he literally would have to be hoisted up out of the bed into a wheelchair just to get to the bathroom. So that's the place that he's come from. And now we're traveling together. We're going all around the country, out the country. He's doing all of that. And so that's a tribute to him and what's in his heart and how he wanted to get well. And he has He had me to motivate him. He has his 2 grandchildren to motivate him. He said, I want to play with my grandchildren. I want to be able to get on the floor and play with them. And everything that he set in his heart to do so far, he's been able to do it. And so I am so grateful for that. And that's one of the things that I'm really, really proud of him, because we hear of other situations where people have strokes, or loved ones have had strokes, and it's a totally different story.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What are his residual effects at this point?
So his original residual effects now, he still has the, I forget what you call it, the foot that drags a little bit, but it's not as bad as it was. When he came out the hospital, he had to have a brace, but he no longer has a brace. He had to have special shoes. He no longer has special shoes. So all those things says that he has made leaps and bounds in developing and improving. And so his speech came back almost immediately. So that's great. His memory's still there. He has one of the more prominent residual effects is that he can't use his right hand to the degree that he wants to yet. Although he's moving it, he can shake with it. But in terms of like maybe opening things with it, and so he still has, to me, that's the more prominent one that's still left.
Thank you. Stroke prompts a powerful shift for the stroke survivor's loved ones, especially in your case, a spouse who instantaneously becomes a caregiver. At one point in our conversations, you said the stroke may have been as dramatic for me as it was for him. I had to relearn how to live, and I still do. Please tell me more about what you meant by that.
When you begin to process, which for me, in my situation, I didn't have a lot of processing time. I had to think fast on my feet because, like I said, we had 40 children in the after-school program. So this is happening maybe 2 or 3 o'clock one day, and the next day, 2 or 3 o'clock, we are supposed to be picking up children from 5 different schools. So I had to think fast. And thankfully, I had my daughter, my oldest daughter, with us. She happened to work at the same school I worked at. And so we were able to really work hard to think fast to get somebody in to take his place, because Kalvin was a transportation driver. So I had a beautiful friend, Mrs. Patricia Terrell. She came to my aid. Oh my gosh, she came to my aid, and I was able to call on a dime, and she said, yes, I'll do this until you find somebody else. And that was such a blessing and such a relief. But even though I didn't have a stroke, what hit his life, it hit mine. And so what I'm saying is that just as his life changed, mine did too. So for example, me having to relearn to live. When I think about just basic things, like I have to process what his needs are, where he has to go, what my needs are, and where I have to go, because now I'm the driver. My husband can't drive. So that's a new way of living for me. So, when people want to invite us to different functions, I don't have to think about like, do I really want to take that drive? Because I'm always driving, I never get a break. So I have to think like that. And I think when I think about us traveling, I have to go through different pieces and steps to prepare for him to be able to get on that airplane, get off the airplane, get from the airport to the rental car, all these pieces. And now I have to think about. So it's not as easy as, okay, let's get out the car, let's go on here, walk into this airport and, do what we normally do. I have to always think about how to get my husband from A to B. Do you know that's a life-changing situation for me? I always have to think about it. When I think about, okay, hey, let's stop and go to the grocery store, and I need to pick up a few items. I have to think always, do we have the scooter in the car? If we don't, is there a scooter there that's working? All of these things I have to think about and process. So everything I do, I have to think about and process. That is how my life has changed.
Thank you, Ivy. It's a shift for the whole family, definitely. As you said beautifully, the relationship deepens in that because you figure out how to navigate this new normal together.
Yes. And so because he knows that I'm basically the sole person that can do for him and whatever, so now we really work as a team. We really work as a team. So when he knows, because he knows that I have to do so much, where he can chip in, he chips in. And so that is huge. That is so huge. And to see that he is thoughtful of me, like when he wants to do certain things, he'll think about whether I should do it or whether he should go. It's like all these pieces to care for me. Like, I know, babe, I know you've had to do this, so this is what we're going to do. Or I know, like, for example, washing. It takes me like 3 or 4 hours to wash our clothes. And he said, babe, don't worry about cooking anything because you've been washing all day. So it's just like, wow, those little bit of things means a lot. And it tells me that you care about me. You care about me also, just like I'm caring about you. So those are the ways that we have revamped, and like wanting to do things. Sometimes I have to lay over things, like I can't get all but I plan to do maybe in 1 day, maybe in 2 days, maybe in a week. But he has a level of sensitivity to understand, like, it's okay, babe, you'll get to it. And that means the world to me.
I love it. Ivy, that's one of the reasons that I think it's important to also include the caregiver stories on Beyond Stillness, because stroke shifts the family's life also, and the depth of relationship can be beautiful in sharing in ways that we can as stroke survivors and as caregivers. And hearing each other's stories is important, to hear each other's perspectives so that we can then empathize with each other and help in ways that we can, and grow in ways that we can, and deepen our relationships in ways that we can.
Yes. And when you said that, that made me think about when he wrote his book. He's the author. When he wrote his book, he gave each one of us a chapter. He gave me and our 3 children a chapter. And he said, I want you to tell your perspective as a caregiver. And that just blessed me so, because as I'm walking through this journey, and I'm seeing other people go through the same thing that I'm going through, what I'm finding out is that the caregivers really don't have a voice.
Mm.
And who do they talk to that can really understand? It's one thing to sympathize and empathize, but it's another thing when you have to walk the shoes. And when he allowed me to give my perspective in his book, that blessed me to no end. And so after he published the book, he came back and said, babe, why don't you, he said, you know what? I want you to expand on your chapter 3. And I was like, whoa. So here I have my book, and it's being edited now. And that really blessed me, because what it says to me, your work and who you are in this new role is valuable to me. And that makes it a little bit easier, because I don't know that especially the kind of caregiver that I am, and so many are, like a working person, a working spouse, that you have another career, you have another job, and you try to do this to keep your loved ones out of a nursing home. I'm not talking about, and I'm not devaluing any other kind of caregiver. I'm just saying, in this situation, you are trying to do 2 major things at one time, and you didn't choose that. You didn't choose that role. You didn't choose that career. And so you're like working double and triple time trying to do both. And really, it's not pragmatically possible, but you can't tell the caregiver that, because they're going to continue, even if it does harm to them. And I see that, even that's why the caregiving part, the self-care part for me is emerging, and it's coming to the surface. And it is something that I really want to speak about and share, because what good can we be if we're deteriorating in our health trying to help somebody else? So there has to be a balance. It's important to me, and and I'm hoping that this is something that I can communicate with caregivers, because we don't really speak our truth. We really don't share our hearts. And what needs to happen at some point, after perhaps the loved one is stabilized is that you have to have that courageous conversation. And I had two courageous conversations, one with my mother and one with my husband. And I had to share with them my humanity side. I had to share with them that I'm not completing tasks, or I'm not doing some of the things that you need to be done just because I'm mean or I don't want to. I said, I'm human and I have to have some rest. And I said, just because we're all living here in the same home, I'm not on call 24/7. So what my role, what I tried to do, I try to make sure things are prepared for them. As long as they're clean, they're fed, they have things that are accessible to them. I'll get to the laundry when I can. I'll get to this or that. And what I began to do, I began to say, okay, we have all these different errands. I'm going to put them all together. So I'm not having an errand every single day. So I began to schedule errands where I can make one trip with the errands, one trip with this. And so I began to have those conversations and just share those things with them, because I know when you're sick, you're only thinking about yourself. You're only thinking about your needs. You're only thinking about what you want, but you're not thinking about the person that's trying to take care of you, that they're humans. They're not robots. And so you have to treat them as such and be kind. And be kind. Oh my gosh. In the beginning of that, Molly, I remember sharing my mom. I love her dearly. Bless her heart. She's gone on to be with the Lord. But I have to say, Mom, you can't be mean. That's not, I know how to make a sandwich. I mean, just little things like that. And you have to, I think it's important to be said. You have to be kind to your caregivers. You have to speak life to them, because we're doing the very best we can. We really are.
Yeah.
But we're not robots. So that was something that kind of came back to me as we were talking and sharing just then.
Yeah. And Ivy, thank you, because I hear the hard parts of the relationship between the caregiver and stroke survivor, or in your mom's case, it was someone who was going through a cancer treatment. But then I also hear the beautiful space. And it's really important to hold both, because that's the journey. And I hear you giving voice to both the hard parts and the parts that really are just in their flow and give you joy. And you've found a way to scaffold the hard parts. In some ways, you've created a system in order to give you more space and more balance. In that you wanted to put all the errands together, or you prepare for the day in advance, which then gives you space to do the other responsibilities that are on your plate. Speaking of, the title of your story shows that your professional life was booming in a few different directions before Kalvin's stroke. You were juggling life as a Chicago public schools administrator, a business owner, leader of the teaching ministry, and of course, you're a wife and a mother. You also assumed the role of caregiver in the blink of an eye. At one point, you said caregivers have to make tough decisions. What was the most difficult part of choosing caregiving over your professional career?
The backdrop is, this was like now 2 years past COVID. And the first year past COVID, the school systems, all the children were not back. They still had the option of not coming. So we probably had a third of our students that first year after COVID. And then the second year after COVID, they all came back. And so they all came back. A lot of them came back with tremendous trauma, tremendous behavior problems. And I was the restorative justice coach, which meant all the problems came to me. And it didn't help that I was hospitalized for COVID that year. So it was a traumatic year for me. And I think what happened was everything came to a climax in terms, because over the years I've always operated at such a high level of output. I think everything within me was crashing. And so it had gotten to the point where I felt like walking out and not ever looking back. And I never had gotten to that point. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love education. And so for me to feel that way was very strange, and it was so not me. So I knew that something was happening, that I needed to make the shift. So I think that kind of situation actually helped me to choose, because I just needed to get out of there, and I didn't care what I had in place or what I didn't have in place. And so I think that's what helped me to just go ahead and make the shift and retire and come on out and just you kind of bring a balance to taking care of my mom and my husband at that point.
So the decision became clear.
Yes. Yeah, it actually helped me make my exodus.
You mentioned your sister-in-love, Golene. What does that term mean, sister-in-love?
It's a very, very affectionate way to say your sister-in-law.
Oh, I love that.
Just have a love, that means you have a really good relationship.
Yeah.
Because, of course, not all in-laws are necessarily like that close. So that's a very affectionate way to say your sister-in-law.
Your sister-in-love, Golene, helped you on your journey to self-care by taking you to a line dancing class. What else have your friends and family done to support you on your journey as a caregiver?
Oh, my goodness. I have a best friend from high school, from sophomore in high school. Her name is Arlicia Brown. And she has been with me through the thick and thin of it. She helped me in our after school program, and Lawana Borden did too. She's one of my friends as well. She helped me, but both of them helped me deal with the after school component. They supported me so strongly. And my friend Alicia, she became a caregiver too, along with myself. So when I needed, if I just needed a break, she would come in and do her hours. When I needed to travel, she let me travel so that she'll be there with mom. If I needed my brother helped me, like with those major things I wanted to do. His day was coming in on Saturday, and so he would come in on Saturday to help take care of mommy. Do a social and emotional visit for her, check in for her. I just, in my community, oh my goodness, just people. Kalvin has a niece, Tiffany, which is my niece. I love her dearly. She helped tremendously. Nephew, they just helped. In the beginning, it was really hard, and Jesse, the nephew, he was there in the beginning. Tiffany was there in the beginning. So I had this little village that were coming in the beginning to help stabilize while I had to go to work. Those were the people that were right there. And, I had people who've gone through this kind of situation before, so they knew what it felt like, and they knew what I needed, and they knew how to just step in, whether come take me for a ride, come take me shopping, come on, it's the girls' day out. All of those things made up the village that supported us. And then my daughter, Elizabeth, she's a really great cook. So she would cook for us. We would have food. She would help me with that. So those are the levels of support that I had.
Sounds like you have a lot of people in your life that were able to step up in ways that were profound. They were very helpful. Sometimes as caregivers, we're so overwhelmed that we don't know how people can help.
Yeah.
But you were talking about your daughter, how she's a great cook, so she cooked for you. Everyone has a different talent that they can somehow offer. You talked about people who had been through something like this before.
Yes.
So having those people step up and just be there.
Yes.
Can be helpful.
Yes. Yes.
You're very engaged in your community. Can you name a few groups, like a neighborhood or a church or school or medical staff that have supported you on your caregiving journey? How has each helped you uniquely?
I would like to talk about my ministry community right now. The medical staff, we have oh my goodness, we have been through quite a bit. And then the other part of the community that really blessed me, aside for just having a love for Kalvin, is that when I go to my community, I know my hands are lifted. I never have to, because I used to have to, everywhere I go, we have to lift that scooter out, and the scooter was heavy. And that was before he has one that he can dismantle, but there was one that he had prior that was pretty heavy. So that wore me down. But when I go to my community, the men there are phenomenal. I never have to help them get it out. They come in there, take it out and help him and get him in and help whatever his needs are. He's taken care of. So it's almost like when I go to my community, I have this my off time. They take care of him so well. So, those are that's really the village. And like I said, my best friend, Arlesia, she is such a level of sensitivity, and she is the one that I can count on. She knows what I need before I don't even have to articulate it. She just responds to the need. And she likes to cook too, so she'll cook us meals and just, you name it, she does it. Shop for us, pick up things for us. What do you need? Just always checking in, literally always. She's like my biological sister. And so she definitely is one that has been a tremendous supporter through this process.
Ivy, what a gift. It sounds like you're surrounded by community. You're surrounded by a lot of individuals that create community. And one little act can be so powerful. You were talking about taking the scooter out of the car and setting that up for Kalvin.
Yes.
Things like opening a door.
Now we have to think about when we go out somewhere, be careful not to overload ourselves, because when we get out the car, we got to get into the house. So we have a wagon now, but we still have to make sure we don't overload, because he can't carry everything. He can carry, he's minimum what he can carry. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because of his right side. So we have to think about things like that the average person, okay, I can grab these 10 bags and we're going to go in. No. And I said, babe, and this is stuff that as I think about it, I'm laughing now, but in the beginning, he probably was like, what? I would say, if you can't carry it, don't bring it.
The symbolism there. Your talk is about caregiving and what you can carry.
Yes. Yes.
You can't load it all the way full.
Exactly.
You have to leave some space.
Exactly.
Ivy Randle, thank you so much for spending time with me over the past month or so.
Thank you, Molly.
I always enjoy our meetings, Ivy. You have so much enthusiasm and so much depth. So thank you for sharing your whole self with me and with everyone who listens to Beyond Stillness.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you for allowing me to share, and thank you for allowing me to express myself. I have so much to say, and thank you for giving me space to say some of the things I wanted to say, and it's been an honor.
Thank you, Ivy.
Thank you.
And now we'll close with a moment of pause, calling to mind parts of ourselves that might need a little care. Taking this moment to choose ourselves. Maybe we've been impatient with our minds. Gather a little love from your heart and send that care to your mind that really has overcome so much in its life. And our bodies, sending love to all parts of our bodies, the left side, the right side, the hands, the feet, the mouth, whatever parts of ourselves, our bodies, that need to know that they are loved and cared for. And now, caring for ourselves as human beings. Understanding that life is a journey with joys and with struggles. But when we take the long view, we're more able to offer ourselves love and care and compassion, and maybe even celebration for all that we've been through and all the work that we've done. And we give thanks. Thank you for devoting time and space to listen to Part 2, Dr. Ivy Randle's interview. For the full story, please listen to Part 1, Dr. Ivy Randle's story. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. In this episode of Beyond Stillness, guest Dr. Ivy Randle offered her story entitled Working Spouse Caregiver. She shared about her journey from overwhelm to balance. She suggests that it's both courageous and healthy to choose yourself in order to become a better caregiver and community member. If you enjoyed this moment of pause for storytelling and reflection, please like, share, or subscribe to the Beyond Stillness Stories After Stroke podcast. Again, thanks for listening. And remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive. You are inspirational.
If you are part of the stroke community and have a story you'd like to share on the show, please contact us. Email molly@beyondstillness.org.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.